Alright, let's talk about what is really happening in Nigeria right now, and trust me, this is not just another online argument, not just politicians shouting at each other on TV. What we are seeing is a deep national tension that has been quietly loading for years, like pressure building inside a sealed container, and now, slowly but surely, that pressure is starting to leak out in public. Voices are getting louder. Positions are getting tougher. Old political friendships are cracking. And right at the center of this storm is one heavy word that carries many hidden meanings: restructuring. But let's be honest, when people say restructuring, they are not just talking about changing government files or rewriting laws. What they are really talking about is fairness, safety, survival, opportunity, and whether the system can still be trusted to protect everyone. So before we go deeper, do me a quick favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because this story is not finished. New developments are still coming out, and trust me, you don't want to miss the next chapter of this national conversation. Now here is where things get very interesting and very serious. For a long time, the Middle Belt has been seen as politically aligned with the North. Even though culturally, historically, and socially, many communities in the Middle Belt have always said, we are not the same, we have different realities, different problems, different fears. That difference used to be quiet. It used to be whispered in private meetings and community gatherings. But now, that whisper has turned into a loud political statement. Middle Belt leaders are no longer hiding their frustration. They are now openly saying, this system is not working for us, and if we continue like this, our people will keep suffering. That is not small talk. That is a serious warning. They are talking about repeated attacks on farming communities. They are talking about land being lost. They are talking about slow security responses. They are talking about decisions being made far away by people who do not wake up to the same dangers they face every day. In simple words, they are saying, we don't feel protected. We don't feel heard. And we are tired of waiting. And that frustration has pushed them to stand shoulder to shoulder with the South in demanding restructuring, a system where states or regions control more of their own security, manage more of their own resources, and decide their own development priorities. Now pause there for a second, because this is where the political balance of Nigeria begins to shift. The South has been talking about restructuring for a long time. Southern groups argue that if states control more of what they generate, they will work harder, compete better, and develop faster instead of waiting for monthly federal allocation. They believe it will force responsibility and reward productivity. But before now, the Middle Belt was sitting in the middle, politically cautious, trying not to offend anyone. Not anymore. And that single move changes the entire weight of the conversation. If this is making sense so far, please like and subscribe, because understanding this moment is key to understanding what Nigeria may face next. Now let's talk about the North, because this is where things become emotionally charged and politically sensitive. Contrary to what some headlines suggest, the North is not speaking with one voice right now. Some leaders are worried. Some are calling for calm. Some are asking for dialogue. Some are deeply uncomfortable but not saying much in public. So when you hear reports saying Northern leaders are begging, what that usually means in political language is this. They are appealing for unity, asking everyone to slow down, and trying to prevent the conversation from moving too fast in a direction they are not fully comfortable with. And their fears are not only about politics. They are also about economics, influence, and readiness. Because here is the hard truth, restructuring does not only give freedom, it also gives responsibility. States will no longer be able to blame Abuja for everything. Security failures become local failures. Poor roads become state problems. Unemployment becomes leadership failure at home. And not every region feels fully prepared for that kind of pressure. This is where Miyetti Allah enters the story, at a very sensitive and emotional point. Over the years, the group has been linked, fairly or unfairly, to farmer-herder conflict across many parts of Nigeria. So anytime land, grazing, and security are discussed, emotions rise fast, and trust drops even faster. Land is not just land in Nigeria. Land is culture. Land is history. Land is identity. So when people start talking about restructuring, land control, and local security, fears immediately jump out on all sides: farmers, herders, communities, and political leaders. And that is why many people are quietly asking a very important question that nobody wants to say loudly. If restructuring finally happens, who really benefits first? Because political ideas always sound sweet on paper. But reality starts when implementation begins. The Middle Belt and the South believe restructuring will protect them better and allow faster development. But restructuring also means states must have strong institutions, honest leadership, and real discipline. Without that, power can easily shift from Abuja to local politicians who may not perform any better. That is why some northern leaders are calling for caution, not just because of influence, but because sudden changes without strong systems can create confusion, rivalry, and even new conflicts. So no, this debate is not simply good versus bad. It is complicated. It is emotional. And it is deeply connected to how people survive daily. Another silent factor driving this debate is population and revenue sharing. For decades, population numbers have affected political representation and federal allocations. Restructuring could change how money flows and how influence is measured. Some regions fear they will lose what they currently receive. Others believe they have been shortchanged for years and finally want fairness. That fear of loss is powerful. And fear always makes people defensive. Meanwhile, ordinary Nigerians are not thinking in political grammar. They are thinking in survival terms. A farmer in the Middle Belt thinks about whether he will return safely from his farm. A trader in the South thinks about poor roads, heavy taxes, and cost of doing business. A family in the North thinks about education, jobs, and social support. These daily struggles shape opinions more than any political speech ever will. And this is why the timing of this debate matters. Costs are rising. Jobs are scarce. People are frustrated. When life becomes harder, citizens start questioning how power and money are shared. That is when demands for reform become louder and more aggressive. So even if restructuring does not happen immediately, this conversation is not going away anytime soon. Now let's return to Miyetti Allah for a moment, because their role remains highly sensitive. When land disputes mix with ethnic identity and occupation, mistrust spreads fast. Accusations become emotional. Dialogue becomes difficult. That is why many voices, including religious and traditional leaders, are quietly pushing for calm language and serious negotiation instead of inflammatory statements. Because once identity conflicts explode, controlling them becomes extremely difficult. And speaking of leaders, governors are watching this situation very closely. Some see restructuring as an opportunity to gain real authority and improve their states. Others are worried, because with more power comes more public pressure. When power is close to home, citizens demand results faster. No more blaming Abuja. No more hiding behind federal excuses. Decentralization removes cover. And not every politician is comfortable with that. This is why some leaders may secretly prefer the current system, even while criticizing it publicly. As this debate continues, Nigeria is entering a period of serious observation. Every statement is analyzed. Every silence is interpreted. Every alliance is watched. This is not just political chess. This is about how over 200 million people continue to live together under one system. And here is the most important truth of all. Restructuring alone cannot save Nigeria. Without good governance, accountability, and citizen involvement, even the best structure can fail. So as viewers, the smartest thing is to stay informed, avoid spreading unverified claims, and focus on solutions instead of emotional blame. Because the future will not be shaped by politicians alone, it will also be shaped by how citizens respond to change. So if you want me to keep breaking down stories like this clearly, calmly, and without unnecessary drama, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay connected. This conversation is far from over, and the next phase may come sooner than many people expect.